Hello everyone. Of all the jobs I thought would give me major lordoms, I did not expect it to be the monk. I found the Pugilist story to be quite silly and fun, so it was a surprise when the monk story takes us on a trip through some of Eorzea's greatest battlefields, talks about ether, chakras, and even the basic history of Alamigo. If you like Final Fantasy XIV lore news and guides, remember to subscribe to the channel, and it would be amazing if you could interact with this video to please our algorithm gods. But now let's dive into the tale of the monk. The monk's origin is in the city-state of Alamigo in Girabania. During A Realm Reborn, we find Girabania currently under the rule of the Garleans. Standing next to the Black Shroud, you can both feel so close and still so far away. The monks trace their origin back to the start of the city-state. During the 6th umbral calamity of the Great Flood, the people were forced to flee their homes. A group of them followed the bright light of a meteor, viewing it as a beacon to safety and a new home, given by the god Ralg the Destroyer. This light led them to the highlands of Girabania, where the people settled, forming the city-state of Alamigo. They worship Ralg there, and some devoted themselves wholly to the god, forming the origin of the Order of the Fist of Ralg. In their temple, they devoted themselves to tempering their body and spirit, to grow closer to the deity. They took up the title of monk, and during their training and meditation, they discovered within themselves a focus of power. They gave these points of focus the name Chakras. These were like valves controlling the flow of ether through the body. And being able to control these valves, or chakra points as the monk learned to call them, they could accomplish extraordinary physical feats. They used this knowledge to form a martial art that channeled the monk's life energy into a destructive force, causing them to not really require any weapons but their fists. Though of course in-game we do have some fist weapons that can look absolutely amazing. All in all, there are 7 seats of power matching with the 7 chakra points. To open up a chakra point, the monk must go to an ancient battlefield where ether flows wild. As you might remember in my video on ether, the ether is everywhere, in every living thing. When we die, it returns to the world around us, but depending on our death, we can release a different amount. A very violent death releases more ether. More so on a battlefield, we have many individuals dying and releasing their ether in a single place at a single point, making it too much for the land to take back, so it creates these ether-dense areas for centuries after the battle has long ended. To open their chakra, the monk goes to one of these ancient battlefields and takes part in a deadly combat. The ether will resonate with the monk and expand one of his inner seats of power. And then the chakra opens. For a monk, their final goal is to open up their 7th chakra. It is seen as the pinnacle of their martial achievement, but it also requires a fierce battlefield and a fight. There is some belief that chakras might even have a light and dark side, making them in total 14, but for this story we will only focus on the 7. The monks of Alamigo became a formidable military force that nurtured a strong alliance with the Alamigan royal family, until the rule of King Theodric, the last king of Alamigo. In the year 1552 of the 6th Astral Era, he had grown fearful of the Order's political power. In fact, he feared a lot of things at the time. Not wanting anyone to touch his political status, he purged the monk order and had the Temple of the First burned to the ground, leaving many of the monks' teaching lost to the wind and ashes. He also turned his madness towards his own family, purging the royal line, all except one, a baby at the time, a young cousin of the king. He was sent by his mother to one of the remote temples of the monk order, where he was raised by the elder monks in the way of the fist. Eventually, Alamigo was plunged into a civil war under this final king's rule, and it ended up falling under the rule of the Garlean Empire, which has since led many people from Alamigo to become refugees in Eorzea, many of them congregating around the city of Ul'dah, including a small settlement known as Little Alamigo. At the start of the story, the relationship between the refugees and the local is rather tense. Many Uldans view the Alamicans as lazy, lacking work ethic, and being generally dishonest. 5 years after the 7th umbral calamity, our warrior of light decides to pursue the fighting art of the pugilist. After mastering this art form, we once return to the guild only to be called over by the receptionist. Gagaruna asks us if we know of a professor named Eric. He is a scholar of the Eorzean military history, a genius and one who tends to spend a lot of his coin on the guild. The man is frustrating to deal with and tends to view all others as idiots compared to himself. But he just pays really well, so the guild doesn't mind too much. Professor Eric is currently investigating ancient battlefields, so the guild send a monk of Alamican descent with him. But according to Gagaruna, the Alamican has no work ethic, and now the professor is demanding a new escort, and Gagaruna believes it should be us. And while we're not a monk, it could be very educational to see the tasks that monks take on in this area. So off to the goldsmithing guild we go to seek out the good professor. And he is a character. Born in Alamico, he has made a notable name for himself. He's clearly very knowledgeable, but also quite full of himself. If he would stop speaking to us like we were idiots, I think we would have a great working relationship. Sadly, he views us as no more than a walking, talking pair of muscles with a very minimal brain power. Eric tells us he is working on reconstructing the military history by analyzing the ether in ancient battlegrounds. Our task is the same as the other monk, who apparently was interested in the study, but has gone off to somewhere, and Eric is quite upset about it. We are to take a machine to measure ether and head to one of the ancient battlefields to take our reading. For the first time, Eric's gonna come with us, and our location is the Sil'dih excavation site in central Satanalan. Sil'dih was the sister state of Ul'dah, formed after the fall of Belladia. It seems the Sil'dih had discovered some water resources through their Flood Control Act. And over this particular water, war broke out between Ul'dah and Sil'dih. And eventually, Sil'dih was wiped out during this war, and for a long time forgotten by many. But after the calamity, the ruins have been uncovered, and now several scholars seek to reclaim their history. A history that will be a subject in a future video. We head out there, gathering the recording with Eric. While he works, we keep the pests at bay, mostly some frustrating imps, but while Eric works, we beat the bloody hell out of the critters, and as we're fighting, the missing monk appears. This is Viðargelt Beaker, once cousin of the last king of Alamico, the only heir to that line to survive, because his mother sent him just as a baby to the monks. And now he's 29 years old, and surprised, as his soul crystal resonates with us. And on this ancient battlefield, as we fought for our life, our first chakra opened. Eric is pleased about our work and greets us both. Introducing us to the monk, Eric then simply describes him as a man who holds primitive beliefs in witchcraft and chakras and spiritual energies. And then Eric is off for his studies as we speak with Viðargelt. He knows that we have awakened, first chakra is open, and we have started on our path to becoming a monk. This is the reason why we suddenly held a surprise light show in the middle of the desert. Monks glow when their chakras open apparently, or at least, as we will see later, sometimes. He explains how chakras exist with all beings, but not all can open them. And to some like us, their inner strength is such that it forces their own chakras open. We are the first he has seen do that, so he gives us a monk soul crystal, as we now have ascended to one of the monks, even if we did not plan to. The memories of those who held the crystal before will guide us, but only if we keep opening our chakras further. It will take time, and some more battlefields, so our best bet is to continue working with a good professor. So we do so, grabbing the ether meter and bringing it back to Eric, who completely forgot it here in the ruins. Eric is pleased that we did bring his items back and decides we will be an excellent assistant, though he doesn't believe our whole monk thing really makes any sense. But we are free to pursue it, as long as we keep on working for him and it doesn't disturb our work. Our next battlefield is Bloodshore. There the battle was waged just off the coast when two pirate fleets, the League of Lost Bastards and the followers of Rykard Mistbeard, met one another in combat. It was so violent that it said the tides were tinged red with blood for days, and after the battle, bodies washed up on the shore for weeks. But this bloody history is now getting forgotten, as today you might also know Bloodshore has costed his soul. A tale worth exploring later, but for now, we head over to the sunny paradise for some ether eating. We place our equipment in the sand, and enemies appear. We take part in deadly battle once again on this ancient battlefield, and as the fight ends, a second of our chakra is opened. Then we bring the equipment back to Eric, who is quite pleased with our work. In fact, he believes we have a talent for grunt work. He has sent our monk friend to take his own readings at the Fine Sand Banks, where the autumn war took place between Alamico and Gridania a long time ago. But he hasn't come back yet, so we are to go meet him in Little Alamico and fetch the equipment. So we go do just that. But it turns out the readings aren't ready. He says he will work on them here, and instead we should go to Snake Mold in the Black Shroud, a place which Eric believes the ether is strong in, even if it has hosted no great battles. So we should get a reading from there too. We hurry over there while Vidraget is taking his own reading. We take the readings and fight the critters, opening our third chakra. Vidraget meets with us and tells us the power of the land has come to us. As when the ether of the land flows into a monk opening their chakras, it leaves the ether in the area in an unrest and unstable state. We cannot enter another until it calms down, which takes some time. So now he feels nothing here, just like we would feel nothing if we were to go to Fine Sand Banks, where he opened his chakra. But we learn Vidraget didn't take any reading there. No, he doesn't really care about Eric's work at all. He took no reading because he was summoned to Little Alamico for gathering of the Monkhood. He instead plans to take a second reading here, believing Professor Eric won't know better, and he believes Eric would anyway twist any result to his beliefs anyway. And he asks us not to tell the professor about what he has done. In fact, Vidraget tells us he is part of the Alamican resistance, fighting for his nation's freedom from Garlemald. He's here to fight, to open his chakras and gain weapons for his nation. But he has been disappointed seeing the refugees. They have given up, forgotten their homeland. The war needs great power to be won. So, what he must do is open up his seventh chakra, and that is why he's working with Eric, so he can find these ancient battlefields and gain the power. And that is how he believes he will save his people. It is a noble cause, and one he cares dearly about, though I feel it isn't quite fair to ruin Eric's research for it. He hands us the measuring device, and we take both ours and his back to Eric. It turns out the professor is not as much of a fool as our monk friend believes. He saw the reading, which were astounding, groundbreaking, revolutionary, but as he remained objective in his studies, he also realized it was the same bloody recording as we brought, taken in the same place. He is furious that we would disrespect his studies like this. He wants to know what the hell happened. We explain about the chakras and what Vidraget did and why. Eric is upset but decides to give us another chance to work with him. So he tells us chakras are just ether. Still, he is starting to find this chakra business interesting. To Eric, it seems if one goes to a battlefield with a certain etheric wavelength and frequency, it could resonate with our own ether, which is probably what's happening when our chakras open. And this is why Eric is interested. And to open the seventh chakra, it must be the ultimate battleground to bond with a concentration of ether in such a mass that has never been recorded before. Is something he's pondering, even if he isn't quite sold on the whole chakra business. But for now, he wants us to do more recording. We are to go to Larxial in the East Shroud and take our reading there. And to make sure there's no nonsense like last time, he has sent our monk friend to East End. Both places a battle of old, but very far away from one another. We head to our spot, doing as we're told, taking the reading, fighting and opening yet another of our chakras, before returning everything back to Eric. There he tells us Vidraget has returned and asks to meet us in Little Alamico. Here we learn a bit about Eric's view of the resistance. He loves his homeland just as much as Vidraget, but believes it's important to look to the future to avoid further bloodshed. And he feels people are too eager to seek revenge and don't think things through. And this does really matter to him, because he has already lost his son to the revolution. But we head over to Little Alamico meeting Wintergeld, who has decided it's time for us to learn a bit more about being a monk. It's time we learn more about his outfit. This is the garb of the Monkhood, cloth made entirely on temple grounds. The cloth is loomed by monks and threads spun from cocoons of worms, only known to be within the temple's Sil'dich's house. The stitching is perfect, each stitch being half the width of the wearer's little finger, and this is believed to make a holy geometry to further open the chakras. He believes it's time for us to start gathering these same relics, but we can't go to Alamico for it. But luckily enough, a set of these clothes were actually stolen by some bandits, and by now 3 of the pieces have been located, so it's our task to go fetch them, and they will become our armor. Now we just have to hope that Lalafell size. We travel around gathering up the pieces only to return to Wintergeld, who tells us Eric has sent a word of some grand discovery, which he is now setting to paper, and Wintergeld is excited to see the research done. Believing with it he will have all the knowledge he needs to open his 7th chakra and see Alamico reborn. So we are sent to Eric, who confirms he is hard at work writing his thesis, which he will then present at a conference with his peers. Till then, we are to go punching and kicking things to our monkly heart's content. When we do return later on, we find an overjoyed professor. The conference was a great success, and everyone was mighty interested with his research and conclusion. He is though a little bit annoyed and confused about where Wintergeld has gone off to. He says he saw our monk friend at the conference, but he has since then vanished, not even coming to congratulate Eric on his great work. And at the moment, something dawns on Eric. We see his face fall from being excited and joyful to worried as he pales, realizing just where Wintergeld has gone. He has gone to attempt the insane. He's going to open his 7th chakra. It seems during the research, Eric was able to isolate the etheric waves of our bodies and identify those of the final ethereal regulation mechanism, that is, the 7th chakra. And he found which land would resonate with it. It's no other than Sil'dih Falls, a place with such a massive history of fighting involving Garleans and dragons that it's definitely gonna need its own story. But what we need to know now is that Eric believes Wintergeld has gone there to try to do just that, to open the chakra. And then he plans to fight the Empire. And if he does that, it was gonna become a complete disaster. And more so, to open the chakra, Wintergeld must take on a deadly fight. But against who? The Garleans? Would that even be enough? Now, not wanting our friend to die, we rush over there to try to talk to him about this madness. We find him surrounded by dead Garleans, as he begins glowing as the 7th chakra swells inside him. But it's not open yet. He needs more fighting, more danger. But it turns out that's alright, because we're here, and Wintergeld has decided on a plan. He needs to find us, the only foe strong enough to fully open his 7th chakra. And for that, we need to die, to push him over the limit. He isn't even alone. He has brought other members of the resistance with him for the fight, to make sure he wins. But we aren't about to go down that easily. We fight him fiercely and end up victorious. Wintergeld yells at us, frustrated that we can't just lose this one fight to help him save his nation. But we see this is just madness. We walk towards him, feeling the power swell inside us, as we connect with the ether of the land, and our 7th chakra opens with a blinding light. Eric, who has been watching from afar, comes over, noting how fascinating that light was. Perhaps there is something worth studying in this chakra business. And then he proceeds to punch Wintergeld in the face. When Wintergeld demands to know why Eric punched him, he explains that Wintergeld is being a fool, throwing himself to the death, throwing others to the death. He's becoming no better than the Garleans he despises so much. Does he truly wish to gain power by force? There is no future for Eorzea if people struggle and vie for power without considering the consequences of their actions. To take power without the responsibility is wrong. The power must be used to deliver a future of life, not death. Wintergeld understands now. It's all good that he wants to free his nation, It is admirable and honorable, but being willing to kill innocents for it is twisted. It will make him no better than the Garleans he hates. He tells us that when he joined the resistance at first, he was asked why he fought, and he had without hesitation said revenge. But fighting for revenge is easy. It's time for him to recognize now why he truly fights, but for that he needs to think. So he hands us his chess piece to finish our set, saying it's only fit for someone who has opened their 7th chakra. And I hope dearly that it has some magical abilities to shrink down and fit me. For now, we should continue with our studies, and Vidigal will go re-evaluate his view on the war. In fact, he tells us he fought beside Eric's son in the resistance long ago. At the time, they both viewed Eric as a coward, but now Vidigal realizes that Eric is not wrong. His views are different from his own, but they're just as valuable, and he wishes he could go back to tell Eric's son just that his father is no coward. He's just really shit at explaining himself. And with that, they're off. We have opened our 7th chakra and finished our tale as a monk in a realm reborn. A story that was far more serious than our pugilist quest, but no less enjoyable. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to make sure to see my future ones, both when I follow other jobs and when we go into the variety of stories of Eorzea, including the many battlefields mentioned in this video, then make sure to subscribe and press the notification bell. For now, there are some videos up on the screen. Click one, it's gonna make me happy and it's gonna make the algorithm happy, and hopefully you very happy too. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I hope I will see you in the next video.